That evening, Daniel Brooks was simply walking home from work. Another long day, another quiet routine, nothing special, nothing different. He always took the same shortcut through the narrow alley behind the old bakery. It was his habit. A habit he never imagined would change his life forever. But on this night, something felt different. The air was colder. The city sounded quieter. And in the far corner of the alley, Daniel noticed a small shape curled up against the wall. At first, he thought it was just a bundle of clothes someone had thrown away. But when he took another step, the shape moved. Daniel froze. He squinted through the dim light, and that's when he saw him. A boy. Tiny. Shivering. Barefoot. His thin arms wrapped tightly around a worn-out little backpack like it was the only thing he owned in the world. Daniel's heart tightened. He slowly walked closer and knelt beside him, lowering his voice. Hey buddy. You okay? The boy didn't answer. He just stared up with wide, scared eyes too tired for an 8-year-old. His lips trembled as if he wanted to speak but was afraid to. Daniel noticed the boy's clothes, dirty, worn, too thin for the cold night. He saw the bruises on his knees, the scratches on his small hands, and the way he held that backpack, like if someone tried to take it, he would rather lose an arm. Daniel felt something he hadn't felt in years. A pull deep inside his chest. A feeling that said, "Don't walk away. Not tonight." He tried again, softer this time. "My name is Daniel. I'm not here to hurt you. Are you hungry? Cold? Can I help you?" The boy swallowed hard, his voice barely a whisper. "My name is Eli." That was the moment Daniel knew. This wasn't just a child in trouble. This was a child hiding from something, or someone. And Daniel had just stepped into a story he wasn't prepared for. Daniel guided Eli gently out of the alley and toward a small curb where the street light flickered above them. He didn't want to scare the boy. He moved slowly, calmly, as if he were approaching a frightened animal. He opened his bag and pulled out a bottle of water and a snack he'd meant to eat on the way home. But tonight, none of that mattered. He offered them to Eli with an open hand. At first, Eli didn't move. His small shoulders shook from cold and fear. Then, slowly, he reached out, took the bottle with both hands, and drank like he hadn't had water in days. Daniel watched him. Every sip, every tremble, every frightened glance at the street as if someone might jump out at any moment. Daniel's heart tightened again. "Eli," he said softly, "why are you out here all alone? Where are your parents?" The boy flinched. He looked down at his feet, gripping the bottle tightly. A long silence filled the air, the kind of silence that carries more pain than any scream. Finally, in a small, cracking voice, Eli whispered, "I can't go home." Daniel felt a chill run down his spine, not from the cold, but from the way the boy said it, as if going home meant danger. He leaned a little closer. "Eli, did something happen? Are your parents looking for you?" Eli shook his head quickly, too quickly, as if even the idea terrified him. His eyes darted around, searching the shadows, afraid someone might be listening. Daniel knew that look. It wasn't the look of a naughty child running away for fun. It was the look of a child running for his life. He swallowed hard and lowered his voice even more. "You're safe with me, okay? No one's going to hurt you. But I need to understand what's going on." Eli hugged his tiny backpack to his chest, his voice trembling. They said if I ever tell anyone, bad things will happen." Daniel felt his jaw tighten. Who were they? What were they threatening an 8-year-old with? And what in the world was inside that backpack he refused to let go of? One thing was clear. Daniel had just stepped into something dark, something dangerous, something he couldn't walk away from now. because the boy wasn't just cold or hungry. He was terrified of someone who should have protected him. When Daniel asked softly, "Eli, what are you running from?" the boy lifted his eyes and whispered a name that made Daniel's entire world stop. Daniel sat beside the boy on the sidewalk, and for the first time, Eli finally spoke more than a whisper. He told him he hadn't eaten in 2 days, that he'd been sleeping behind an abandoned shop, and that whenever grown-ups walked by, he hid, because some of them tried to grab him. Daniel listened in complete disbelief. A child wandering the streets alone, terrified, hiding like a stray animal? It didn't make sense. Where were his parents? Why wasn't anyone looking for him? Eli stared down at his feet, his voice shaking. He said he didn't want to go back. He didn't say where back was, but the fear in his eyes told Daniel everything. Something was wrong. Very wrong. And right there on that cold street, Daniel made a decision. He wasn't going to leave this boy alone for 1 more minute. Daniel couldn't take his eyes off the boy. Eli sat there hugging his little backpack like it was the only thing keeping him alive. He looked exhausted, hungry, and scared of even breathing too loudly. So Daniel tried to speak gently, the same way he used to talk to his little brother years ago. He asked, "Eli, do you want to come with me? Just for a warm meal. Nothing scary." The boy hesitated. He looked around the street like someone might jump out and drag him away. Then, almost silently, he whispered, "Do you promise you won't send me back?" Those words stabbed Daniel's heart. What kind of life did this child come from? That a simple meal felt dangerous, and being sent back felt worse than being homeless? Daniel placed a hand on his own chest and said, "I only promise one thing. You're safe with me." And for the first time, Eli nodded. They stood up together, one tall man and one tiny scared boy, and walked toward a future neither of them could see yet. But destiny was already waiting. Daniel took Eli to a small diner just a few streets away. Nothing fancy, just warm lights, quiet tables, and the smell of real food. But to Eli, it felt like heaven. When they sat down, the boy didn't even touch the menu. He kept looking around like someone might burst in and drag him out. His legs were shaking under the table. Daniel noticed. So he gently pushed a plate toward him and said, "You don't need to be scared here. Eat. Take your time." The moment the food touched the table, Eli's eyes filled with tears. Not because he was sad, but because he couldn't remember the last time someone fed him without shouting, without conditions, without fear attached to it. He tried to eat slowly, but hunger won. He took big bites, hand trembling, tears quietly falling onto the plate. Daniel pretended not to notice. He didn't want to embarrass him. But inside, his heart broke in ways he didn't expect. This wasn't just hunger. This was a child who had survived too much, too alone, for too long. And Daniel knew right then, this wasn't going to be a simple act of kindness. This boy needed someone, maybe even him. After the meal, Daniel drove Eli to his apartment, not to keep him, but to make sure he was warm and safe for a few hours. He gave him a clean towel, told him he could shower if he wanted. Eli nodded quietly and walked into the bathroom like someone entering a battlefield. When Daniel heard the soft sound of running water, he finally exhaled. But then, the door opened a little. "Sir," Eli whispered, "do you have, maybe, a t-shirt I can borrow?" Daniel smiled and handed him one. But when Eli reached out, Daniel saw something. A bruise. Dark purple. Fresh. Then another one on his wrist. Then near his elbow. Old scars that told a story no child should ever have to speak. Eli froze when he noticed Daniel looking. He yanked the sleeve down fast, stepping back like he expected to be punished. That moment, Daniel's heart snapped. Eli, who did this to you? Daniel asked softly. The boy's lips trembled. He shook his head. He wouldn't talk. He wouldn't even breathe. This wasn't a runaway by accident. This wasn't a child who just got lost. This was someone escaping a nightmare. One that was still following him. And Daniel, he knew right then that everything was about to get much darker, and much more dangerous than he expected. But he also knew one thing. He wasn't letting this boy go back to whoever did this. Not now. Not ever. Eli came out of the bathroom wearing Daniel's oversized t-shirt, the fabric hanging off his tiny shoulders. His hair was still wet, but his eyes looked even wetter. Daniel didn't push him, didn't move closer, didn't crowd him. He just sat on the edge of the couch and said softly, Eli, you're safe here. No one is going to hurt you. For a moment, the boy stood still, like he didn't know how to react to safety. Like the word safe was something he had never tasted before. Then, slowly, Eli walked toward Daniel and sat on the carpet, hugging his knees. His voice was barely a breath. Sir, can I tell you something? Daniel nodded gently. I'm right here. And the truth came spilling out. Quiet, trembling, soaked in 8 years of fear. My dad. He gets angry. Eli whispered. He gets loud. And when he's loud, he hits. Daniel's jaw tightened. And last night, he hit my mom too. Eli's voice cracked on the word mom. That was when the boy finally looked up, eyes shining. I wasn't running away from home, sir. I was running to save myself. Daniel felt every word like a knife. Eli wiped his nose with the back of his hand. I didn't know where to go. So I kept walking, till I saw your truck. He said it like he'd been guided there by fate. Then something happened that Daniel didn't expect. Eli leaned forward, and wrapped his small arms around Daniel's waist. Not tightly. Like he was scared someone might yank him away. Daniel placed one hand on the boy's back. Gently, like touching something fragile. You're safe, Eli, he whispered. I promise you. I'm not letting anyone hurt you ever again. And this time, Eli believed him. Daniel was about to ask Eli another question when, bang, bang, bang. 3 hard knocks shook the front door. Eli froze instantly. His small body stiffened like someone had poured ice down his spine. His eyes widened, then filled with terror so raw, Daniel felt it in his own chest. Eli, who is that? Daniel asked softly. The boy didn't answer. He just stared at the door, as if a monster was standing behind it. Another knock. Harder. Then a deep voice growled from outside. Eli, I know you're in there. Open this damn door. Eli flinched violently and scrambled backward on the carpet. Daniel had seen fear before, but not like this. This wasn't a child scared of trouble. This was a child scared for his life. The boy's voice shook. That's my dad. He found me. Daniel stood slowly, heart pounding, not from fear, but from anger. A cold, protective anger he didn't know he had. Outside the door, the man kept shouting. His words slurred, violent, desperate. You think you can run from me? Open this door right now. Eli pressed his hands over his ears, breathing fast, tears flowing. Daniel knelt beside him and gently cupped the boy's face. Eli, look at me. The boy looked up, trembling. You're safe. He's not coming near you. Not while I'm here. Another loud bang made Eli jump into Daniel's arms, burying his face in Daniel's chest. Daniel held him close. He stood up slowly with Eli still clinging to him, walked to the door, and in a voice colder and steadier than steel, said, Leave. Right now. or I'm calling the police." There was silence. Then footsteps. Slow. Uncertain. Backing away. Eli's grip loosened only a little. He whispered into Daniel's shirt. "Thank you. Thank you for protecting me." Daniel held him tighter. "Always, kid. You're not alone anymore." Daniel kept holding Eli close, even long after the shouting outside stopped. The little boy finally loosened his grip, but his eyes stayed glued to the door, waiting for it to explode open again. Daniel lowered Eli gently onto the sofa. "It's okay," he whispered. "You're safe. I promise." But suddenly, flashing blue lights spilled through the window. Daniel frowned. "Eli, did your dad call the police?" The boy shook his head quickly. "No, he hates the police." A sharp knock struck the door again, but this time the tone was different. Firm, official, controlled. "Police department. Sir, we need to speak with you." Daniel exchanged a frightened glance with Eli, then walked slowly to the door and opened it. Two officers stood outside. One older, one younger. Both serious. Behind them, Eli's father, standing with his arms crossed, angry smirk on his face, like he'd already won. Eli gasped and hid behind the sofa, shaking violently. The older officer spoke first. "Sir, this man reported that his son was being kept here without permission." Daniel felt something burn inside his chest. "He wasn't kept here," Daniel said firmly. "He ran here. He was terrified." The father sneered. "He's lying. He does this for attention. Come on, Eli. Get out here now." The officer raised a hand. "Sir, we'll handle it." Daniel stepped aside just enough so the officers could see the boy curled up on the floor. Small. Trembling. Not acting. Not pretending. The younger officer softened immediately. "Can I talk to him?" Daniel nodded and stayed close. The officer crouched and spoke gently. "Hey, buddy. Can you tell me what happened?" Eli didn't speak at first. He just stared at the officer's badge, then at Daniel, then at the front door where his father waited. His lips shook. "Please," he whispered, "don't make me go with him. He hurts me." The room went dead silent. The officers turned toward the father, and something changed in their eyes. The older officer stepped forward. "Sir, we need to ask you some questions." "Outside." "What?" "No, you can't just." "Yes, we can." They guided him outside firmly. Eli collapsed into Daniel's arms, starting to cry. Not from fear this time, but from relief. Daniel wrapped both arms around him and whispered, "You're safe now, Eli. You did the right thing." Eli stood frozen, his small hands gripping Daniel's shirt so tightly his knuckles turned white. Outside, two officers moved quickly toward the man who had terrified this little boy his whole life. Eli's father shouted and struggled, but for the first time, his power meant nothing. The officers placed him in handcuffs as the neighbors peeked from their doors. Daniel kept one hand on Eli's back, steady and warm. He whispered, "You're safe now. He can't hurt you anymore." Eli didn't speak. He just buried his face against Daniel's chest and let out a quiet sob, the kind a child releases when years of fear finally break open. As the police car door slammed shut, Daniel felt something shift inside him. This boy wasn't just a stranger anymore. He was someone Daniel wanted to protect, no matter what came next. After the officers stepped inside, the room fell painfully quiet. Eli stood halfway behind Daniel, small hands gripping the man's hoodie like it was the only safe thing he had left in the world. One of the officers knelt slowly, lowering himself to Eli's height. His voice was soft. "Eli, we just want to understand. You're not in trouble." We only want to know if you're safe. Eli didn't answer at first. His lips trembled. His eyes stayed fixed on the floor. Then, in the faintest whisper, he said 3 words Daniel had never expected to hear. Please, don't leave. Daniel felt his heart twist. He placed a gentle hand on the boy's back, steady and warm. I'm right here, he said. I'm not going anywhere. The officer nodded slowly, kindness in his eyes. Eli, do you feel safe with Daniel? There was a long pause, a shaking breath. Then Eli moved closer, gripping Daniel's hoodie with both hands. He's the only one who cared. And in that small apartment doorway, in that single fragile moment, the truth finally opened. The officers stepped outside to speak privately, leaving Daniel and Eli alone for a moment. Daniel knelt down, gently taking Eli's shaking hands into his. Listen to me, Daniel said softly. I don't know everything you've been through, but I promise you this. You're not alone anymore. Eli's eyes lifted slowly, red from crying. Are they going to take me away? He whispered. Daniel breathed in, steady but emotional. They're going to do what's right. But whatever happens, I'll fight for you. You hear me? I'm not letting you go back to pain. Eli swallowed hard and then stepped forward, wrapping his arms around Daniel's neck. Not a scared hug, but the kind a child gives when they've finally found something safe. When the officers returned, their expressions were gentle. The older officer cleared his throat and said, Eli told us everything. We'll file the report. And until social services arrives, he stays with you. You've been good to him. Daniel nodded, relief hitting him like warm light. Eli looked up with a small hopeful smile, the first hint of peace on his face since the night this story began. Standing together in that small apartment doorway, a broken boy, a tired but kind man, and 2 officers who understood what mercy meant. A new chapter quietly opened. Not perfect, not certain, but safe. And sometimes, that's enough to change a life forever.